This will be for the con exercise, derivatives of tan, cotan, secant, and cosecant. So first you want to know the basic derivatives. The derivative of the sine is the cosine, and the derivative of the cosine is the negative sine. And we're going to be using the quotient rule as usual, VU prime minus UV prime over V squared. All right, so here's the original in the top row and the derivative in the bottom row. Derivative of the tan is the secant squared. Derivative of cotan is negative cosecant squared. Derivative of secant is secant times tan. And derivative of cosecant is negative cosecant times cotan. All right. If you're taking a test and you need a lot of quickness and efficiency, maybe you can memorize these. But if you don't wish to memorize these, you can still obtain these derivatives using the quotient rule. Okay. So you can still get these even if you don't memorize it. But you do have to know that tan is the same as sine over cosine. Cotan is the same as cosine over sine. Secant is 1 over cosine, and cosecant is 1 over sine. All right, so if you know these and you know the quotient rule, you can get these derivatives right here. All right, so here we have y equals secant of x. We want to evaluate the derivative at x equals pi over 4. So we said in the notes earlier, secant x, that's equivalent to y equals 1 over the cosine of x. All right, and we're going to find the derivative, dy dx. And we're going to use the quotient rule. So that's the bottom times the derivative of the top. The derivative of 1 is just 0. Minus the top, which is 1, times the derivative of the bottom. Derivative of the cosine is the negative sine. And that's all over the bottom squared. So that's cosine squared of x. All right, cosine of x times 0 is just 0. Negative 1 times negative sine is positive sine of x. And that's over the cosine squared of x. You can also write that as cosine of x and that entire quantity squared. All right, now we're going to evaluate this at pi over 4. So just plug in pi over 4 wherever you see an x. All right, so that's going to be the sine of pi over 4 divided by the cosine of pi over 4. But that whole thing is squared. All right, so now we're going to go to the calculator, or you could use the unit circle. But if you use the calculator, make sure you're set to radians. All right, so I'm set to radians here. We're going to do the sine of pi over 4, sine of pi divided by 4, close parentheses, and then that's going to be divided by parentheses, cosine of pi divided by 4, close parentheses twice, and square it. Okay, so that's going to be squared. Let me see if I typed that correctly. Yes, that's correct. Hit equals, and I get 1.414. Okay, so luckily I happen to know that that equals radical 2. So that's going to be answer C. Now, if your calculator doesn't give you the answers in this form, you're either going to have to convert these to decimal, all right, so it matches what you have on the calculator, or you can use the unit circle and it will give you these in simplest radical form. All right, so here we have the tan of x, and we said in the notes, tan of x, that's equivalent to sine over cosine. All right, so we're going to take the derivative, f prime, and then evaluate at pi over 6. All right, so if we start with f prime of x, that's going to be the bottom. I think I need more room. Bottom times the derivative of the top, derivative of sine is cosine, minus the top, times the derivative of the bottom, derivative of cosine is negative sine, and that whole thing is divided by the bottom squared, so that's going to be cosine squared of x. Cosine times cosine is cosine squared. Negative sine times negative sine is positive sine squared. And on the bottom, we have cosine squared of x. All right, you can rewrite that as cosine of x quantity squared. All right, cosine squared plus sine squared is just 1. That's the Pythagorean identity. So we can just make the numerator a 1. And we're going to evaluate this at pi over 6. All right, so that's going to be 1 in the numerator divided by cosine of pi over 6. And that denominator is going to be squared. All right, so we can just do this on the unit circle. Okay, 1 divided by, and let's go to the unit circle, cosine of pi over 6, and then we're going to square it. Okay, here's pi over 6 right here, and the cosine is the x-coordinate. All right, so cosine of pi over 6 is going to be radical 3 over 2. All right, so that's going to be 1 divided by, and cosine of pi over 6 is radical 3 over 2. And that whole thing is squared. So that's 1 divided by radical 3 squared is just 3. 2 squared is 4. And 1 over 3/4 is the same as 4/3. Okay, just do keep, change, flip. And you just take the reciprocal of the denominator. So that's going to be 4/3. All right, one more. Here we have the cosecant of x. We said in the notes that cosecant, that's equivalent to 1 over sine. All right, so we're going to find the derivative at x equals pi over 3. All right, so dy dx. Same thing as y prime, really. It's going to be bottom times the derivative of the top. Derivative of 1 is just 0. Minus the top times the derivative of the bottom. Derivative of sine is cosine. And that is all over the bottom squared. So that's sine squared of x. All right, sine times 0 is 0. Negative 1 times cosine is going to be negative cosine. And that's over sine squared of x. You can rewrite that as sine of x quantity squared. And now we're going to sub in pi over 3. So that's going to be negative cosine of pi over 3. Divided by sine of pi over 3 squared. All right, make sure you're squaring that whole thing. You square that whole thing, not just the pi over 3. All right, so I will use the unit circle once again. All right, so negative cosine of pi over 3. Here's pi over 3. Cosine is the x-coordinate. That's 1/2. So it's negative cosine, which means the numerator is going to be negative 1/2. And the denominator, sine of pi over 3 squared. The sine is the y. Here's pi over 3. The sine is the y-coordinate. So it's radical 3 over 2. And that denominator is squared. All right, so we have negative 1/2. Radical 3 squared is 3. 2 squared is 4. We're going to use keep, change, flip. Keep negative 1/2. Change division to multiplication. Flip 3/4 and make it 4/3. 4 divided by 2 cancels, and you're just left with 2 in the numerator. We still have a negative sign, and we're left with 2/3. All right, if you had done this on the calculator, and it might have something like negative 0.6667. Okay. Anyhow, negative 2/3. Final answer.